Let's unbox the 3D edition of Catan. This is the second release of a 3D edition, with the first one being released in 2005. This box is huge, and today we're going to see all the components up close, and then we'll compare it to the original Catan from 2015. There's a lot to cover in this video, so thank you for watching this on Table Greatness. Enjoy.
Dun dun dun.
Okay, so this is a big one, quite a heavy box as well. So let's just get right to it. We got more stuff here. Alright, so here's some of the things that were in the box. We have the Catan 3D Edition game overview and rules. Then you have a big overview of the game itself. You have all the components, the beginner setup of the map, of the island. So what I'm noticing is that they use the 3D components for the rules. They didn't necessarily just use the basic rules that come with the game. Then we have here the almanac, and it's the same thing. They use the 3D versions of the pieces here to show some of the images. Then here we have the longest army, longest road cards, plus your player reference cards. Now here we have a plastic cover for the pieces. Now it is inside another box. As you can tell, it says Catan 3D on there, Catan 3D right there. So the box itself also has a few of these little icons on the side, some of the resources. On the side here we have the red die and the yellow die. So let's go ahead and open this, see where we can open it from. It smells like fresh paint, fresh plastic. It smells really good. It smells brand new, which is an awesome scent when you have a brand new game like this. Now, I don't know where to start. There are so many great components to this. So let's just start off with, I guess, the border of the island. As you can see here, the pieces come protected with this styrofoam. And then they also have a piece of cardboard in the middle, in between them. And I must say, these pieces look great. Here's the back of this piece here. It has Catan engraved into plastic. Really, really nice. It's an amazing pieces for this game. I love how they made some of the waves on the edge here. Looks great. I know with my voice you can't really tell that I'm excited about this, but I tend to lack enthusiasm in my voice. But just to let you know, this is making me really excited to play Catan. These are really great pieces. They look really nice. I'm actually afraid to stack them together and scratch them. So these are hand painted. I'm just afraid that with some of these pieces, some of the trees or would get scuffed up and marked. And here we have our trays for our cards, and they're 2 trays. So we'll have our 5 resources, and then the other stack right there. And we have our cards here. So let's look at some of these other pieces here. So these pieces are also hand painted, and they come with a piece of cardboard in between. So here's some of the mountains, and I must say they look really, really good. So the pieces themselves, they feel light. They don't feel heavy, but they also don't feel necessarily cheap. You can tell that there was hard work given to these pieces. These definitely look great. The detail is great. They would just can't wait to put them out and create the island and see how these look. These are the hills. and the hills produce brick. You can see some of the brick details here on the side. Then we have here the forests. The forests have a nice darker green color to them. So here we have the fields. Some of the fields here with grain. You can see some of the grain already harvested. And here we have the pastures. And the pastures have sheep. Little groups of sheep. And these are trees, and these are sheep. So the sheep are as tall as the trees. Besides the scale, it's great. It looks awesome. It looks really good. Not complaining at all. And then here on the last piece we have the desert. The desert is just sand with some rocks. Now here we have some of the harbors, the brick, the ore, the 3-to-1 harbor. So you have 3 little crates there. The grain harbor, the wool harbor with 2 little sheep on the boat, the lumber harbor. These are nice little tokens. Obviously they are hand painted and they look great. They have great detail on them. The sheep, you can tell that it has a wool texture. The bricks have somewhat of a brick texture, and they're brown and red with with the colors. So these pieces are really nice. And here is the robbers, and the robber token also has a wash on the plastic, but it has good detail. You can see the individual fingers on the hand. You can see the expression on their faces clearly, and it's like the other ones, plastic. Very well made, has a nice mold. These dice say Catan on them, and I don't know if you can tell, but they're not necessarily circles. So these have little hexagonal shape to the dice. So these dice are very nice, very nice attention to detail on the dice, very special. So the markers have like a soft plastic feel, kind of like a light acrylic. And these markers are translucent, definitely feel premium. So these definitely feel heavy. They have some weight to them. They don't feel like light plastic. So these tokens are not painted with such detail, but they do have a light wash to them. But the tokens themselves have a lot of detail. So these are the roads. So you can tell the roads are like dirt roads. This one has like a chariot's wheel right there on the side. And then these are the settlements. You can tell they have really good detail on the tokens themselves. And then the city has a lot of really good detail. So it looks like there's a bunch of houses built next to this cathedral in the center. So these are great pieces, great tokens. Alright, so now let's compare the original Catan to the new 3D Catan. Some of the pieces that we can put side by side, just to get an idea of scale. So here we have some of the reference cards that we can compare to. The 3D versions are smaller than the original version, and the 3D version actually have a little bit of a design on the edges there. The largest army cardboard are the same size, same quality. Now here we have the resource cards for the original version of Catan. Alright, so if we pull the cards next to each other, you can see that they're identical size. And if you flip it over, you have the signature sunset on the 3D version, and then the island, or an island, on this version of Catan. Alright, so here are the development cards for both games. They're similar in size. Now you can see the difference here in the library. There's no description on the 3D version, it just says 1 victory point. So on the 3D version, there's no description on any of these victory points. However, on the 2015 version, you have descriptions on those point cards. Also, in the back of the development cards, also you have the Catan logo. And here it's a shield with the sunset, it looks like. Robber Pawn. Alright, so let's pull out a forest tile. We'll put out a forest tire from the 3D version. And as you can tell, it's same size hexagon on both games. I must say that now that I'm looking at them side by side, I would prefer if this was actually a little bit brighter and yellow. This one's a little bit dulled out because of the brown underneath. So definitely I would prefer if this was a little bit brighter. Alright, so here we have the dice of the 2015 version and the dice of the 3D version. So this 3D version die are very special. They have the Catan right there engraved on the die. And then, like I said earlier, the numbers are actually hexagons, and these are circular. Just nice little special attention to the detail. So something noticing right off the bat here is the shore on the 3D version is kind of like a muddy brown color. Here on the 2015 version is kind of sandy, so it looks like a beach. I probably would add like a little bit of sand color on the edges here to invoke some kind of beach feel instead of like a brown muddy look. And then obviously if we compare the two different types of tokens, we have your standard wooden tokens. So obviously there's a big difference in the tokens, and the 3D version just brings it up, 10 times with the quality and the detail on these. And then we can compare some of the harbors. So this is the harbor for the wood, 2-to-1. Here's the wooden harbor for the 3D version. So hopefully that gave you a good idea on the size comparison and the component comparison from the 2015 version of Catan to the 3D version of Catan. Now let's lay out the board on the table and see how it looks. Alright, so here we have the game set up. You can see it looks very, very nice. Some of these edges here are not necessarily flush. For example, here you can see it lifts up a little bit, but the edges do all fit really very nicely and tight. And the pieces inside the board fit pretty well also. They don't necessarily clash with each other. They have a little bit of room in between each other, unlike the edges here. You can see some of the houses with their roads, and the houses fit pretty well in between these pieces here. And if I were to get a city and place it with the settlement there, that's the way a city would look. And they're easy to move around and pick up. There is enough space in between, so you won't be knocking things around. The presence on the table looks amazing. Just the 3D pieces look great. It's easy to see as well. The number tokens are laid out now. However, some of these pieces you can clearly see where to put the token. For example, on the mountains, you know, the ridges here form some kind of barrier, and you naturally would want to put the token right there. Same with the forest. The forest has like a little flat area. Now with the fields here, the fields and I guess the meadows where the sheep are and the grain, I'm not really sure where to put the tokens. There is an open space here on the field, and you can put it there. And then I think I saw on the rule book that the tokens would fit here on these grains. So it doesn't matter. I mean, the tokens do stay. You can clearly see the number on the piece itself. The harbors, they go on these edges here, and then these little ramps would indicate which corners you would put the settlements. Then you have the robbers here in the desert. The desert has an open spot there where you put the robbers. Now, if you were to put the robbers on another piece, you would put it on top of the token. Maybe if the token's not level, it would fall, but it seems like it's holding. This version of Catan is great. It is a very expensive version, but I must say that it's very much worth the investment to purchase this. If you're a fan of Catan, this is something that will look great as a centerpiece. Although the gameplay will be the same as the original Catan, this is more of a showpiece. Something that you could proudly put on your table, on a mantle or somewhere where you can show off this great piece of art. Because this game is a piece of art. It's great. With hand-painted pieces, very good attention to detail, and just everything looks premium. So this is a great addition for any Catan fan to have. Now, if you just want to learn how to play Catan and get the experience of it, I would just recommend getting the base game. But this is something premium for collectors, something that will look great on the table, possibly even a great gift for somebody. This is awesome to have as a board game collector, as a gamer, or as somebody who's just a fan of just this board game. This game has really, really great production. I would recommend it. And the hexagonal? Is that the way you say it? This is a big one.
Dun dun dun.